I'd like to thank everyone for coming to the first show of the Duffle Bag Collectors Club. I'm Tom Filecco. I've been a collector now for about 45 years. As of late, I've been specializing in Cold War era communications equipment. I've been a licensed amateur radio operator. My call sign is W1WSO since 1984. And we're going to talk about radio receivers that you as a collector or a living historian might be interested in to enhance your display. These radios right here range from Second World War over to the Cold War era. These are both very nice examples. They're shortwave receivers, but they do cover the top end of the AM broadcast band, which is useful because if you can get one in working condition, you can tune it to AM broadcast and you have a little bit of audio that you can get to provide background, especially if you're doing a display at FDR. There is a local station above 1500 that comes in rather well. This is a BC 348. This was created in the 1930s. It's also known as the BC 224, depending on the voltages that go into it. This one runs 28 volts DC into a dynamometer. The earlier BC 224 was a 14 volt one. However, most of these have been modified by amateur radio operators and will work off of 110. But it's a nice general purpose radio. It was actually used in aircraft and ground stations up until the 1970s. It's small, compact, lightweight, and relatively easy to work on. This one right here is a little more recent. This is a 1950s to 1970s vintage radio. They might have even been used in military installations as late as the 1980s. It's an AN GRR5, also known as the Angry 5. This was a ground and vehicle radio used in Army service. This too covers the shortwave bands and covers the top end of the AM broadcast band at 1.5 megahertz and goes up to about 18. Nice thing about this unit is that it will run off of 6 volts DC, 12 volts DC, or 110 AC. So depending on your installation, you have a lot of flexibility to get this radio up and running, as opposed to this one, which might require a little bit of work. But depending on whether you're doing World War II or post-World War II, either of these would be a good radio to put in a little setup. A lot of reenactors and living history enthusiasts like to use the AN GRR5 in Jeeps, for example. They do have a vehicle mount. There was a transmitter that went with it that you can also match it with at some point in time. As far as price goes, these are running generally about under two and a half and down, depending on the condition. If you find one in working shape, you're going to spend more for it. These usually top out at about 300, and you can get them down into the mid 100s, depending on where you're getting it from. And that's my talk.
I have a question.
That was great.
Do either one of these radios run on batteries? Like portable? Are they portable?
This one will run on 28 volts DC or 14 volts DC if you have a dynamometer on it. So it will go down to 12, but it's going to be a little iffy. Typically what a lot of hobbyists do with these is they either modify them to run them off of 110, or they use 2 car batteries in series to get up to a voltage that's close enough to that to get it to work.
Okay.
This one right here will run off 6 volts, 12 volts, or 24, as well as 110.
But not really a portable battery pack, just like off a vehicle battery.
You can run these off a vehicle battery, and you can probably get a few hours out of it if you use a jump start pack.
Okay. Thank you.
Now, are those transmitters or receivers or transceivers?
These are receivers.
Only.
Yep, straight up receivers only.
Do you do all the restoration yourself?
Yeah.
Now, where do you find these things?
Oh yeah, where do you find them?
You basically find them at swap meets for radio hobbyists. There is a vintage radio and communications swap meet that happens every other month up in Windsor, Connecticut. Once a month, there is a swap meet down in Seaford on Long Island. The Sussex show will have radios, as well as some others.
And if
throughout the
somebody wanted
Northeast.
to contact you, they go through the club and
Yes,
to contact you?
contact me through the club.